Thank God.
Sick.
That was like, 15
Man,
minutes
what a
of like
trainer.
YouTube video installation. All right,
jeez.
I'll hit the live button and we're gonna go live again.
Fingers crossed.
Round 2, here we go.
Round 2, and this time I'm going to monitor the comments. So hopefully, if this is still happening, that's the go. All right, what's up, everybody? This is the Kent Farm Podcast. My name is Clue. We are all out of Australia, and we just did 15 minutes with no audio. So we're going to try. We're going to try again and see how we go. So yeah, where's everyone from? Let's chat and talk about what's going on for everyone. So obviously Ronnie, yourself, Marcus, and me were all just in the Zoom chat not long ago. But we've got Anthony here, so we'll start off with him. Anthony, tell us a bit about yourself.
What's going on, boys? I'm here from Sydney. You can call me Tony. I don't know how to change the name on Zoom. But yeah, bro, just lost my mind this morning. How was everyone else's wake up?
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. I jumped in. First thing, I decided I was going to do a reaction. I'd never done a reaction video before, and decided that's what I was going to do. So I jumped up at 5 o'clock and said, I'm going to do this reaction video, and walked out here, did it. And then I had messages from people in, obviously we've got the Snyder Cut Australia group chat going on, that somebody had dropped leaks and they all backed out.
Yeah,
so
right.
I was glad I didn't check that first because, it's really, really sad to see, but happy days regardless when you get to see the trailer.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's wild because I heard earlier this morning from, I think I was just watching the boys on Real Anarchy, and they were saying that they had initially planned there was going to be like a live event with similar to like the Man of Steel live watch where, you know, it's fan reactions and everyone joins in and everything, and you know it's just a shame that got ruined, and now, you know, even the analytics from that alone just showing how interested the fans in it and everything, just from a Warner Brothers perspective, it's kind of shit, like, to be honest, like, and especially on a monumental kind of day like this, where it was like, you know, this is a big thing for the fans. It's all eyes from the general public, at least, and you know that would have trended worldwide, you know, and
absolutely.
Snyder's been doing the hard yards, jumping in on so many people's streams.
Yeah, we still got there.
But you're right. You're right, 100%, Tony. And you know, you feel like a bit of a conspiracy theorist, thinking that for them to drop, for now, both Snyder Cut trailers have leaked early, and the Godzilla vs Kong trailer dropping against it today too. You sort of feel like, and I know we all know it. It seems like Warner Brothers wants it to fail. And it makes sense for Toby Emmerich to want it to fail because all this is evidence that he's messed up if it does well. So, but you do feel like a bit of a conspiracy theorist because we could see the picture, but we don't.
Yeah, legit. It feels like we're constantly swimming upstream on this one, like from everything to distribution to, you know, just getting. Zach mentioned on this other, I think one of you guys sent it through actually on the Twitter chat. It was just him talking about the distribution and how he wishes he was in charge of it. And, you know, it wasn't until it got announced. And even once it did get announced, they still didn't recognize the international demand for this. So even once it got announced, there was no gears turning in terms of getting this shit live to everybody on time. It's just this last little frantic push to try and get that to happen now. And it's like,
it's funny you say that because somebody also mentioned that they had DC Fandom. They ran DC Fandom and they knew they could see all the analytics and all of that and where people are coming from and where the demand was and all that. They had an Australia panel with Boss Logic and stuff. You know that there's demand. What are you doing? So
that Fandom was on the same day as Comic-Con Online, and it absolutely obliterated Comic-Con Online.
Yeah.
You know, and that Comic-Con Online had a lot of pre-recorded panels, and this was all live. You know, like even with things like trailer leaks and little blips here and there. The girls that did it, who were amazing, by the way, they live streamed for, I don't know, something crazy, like over 12 hours. And, you know, like all the analytics from that, it's Sean O'Connell said it today. It's like patterns, like the guy from Collider who tried to take the piss out of the aspect ratio, going, "Oh, just cut it
that was
little bit on the
ridiculous.
side and make it more epic."
I did.
You know, it's patterns.
And you look at that too, and these are people that he 100% knows that the aspect ratio has been designed for IMAX. He knows what it is, and it's just a lot of people stirring the pot. And like, because I ended up commenting to Sean saying, "What is it about Collider that every single person from Collider wants to jump in and be like, oh yeah, Snyder Cut whenever it's going to drive clicks, but we all know
when it's going to drive the
crap." But then they're commenting and saying stuff like this, and you know, he said, Sean did say to me, it feels very personal, and whether that's something like, you know, whether that is a factor that they're annoyed that they don't get screeners, or they're annoyed that he's not going in interviews with them, or what the go is. You wonder what it is specifically, but I feel like that's aspects of it. But as I said, you know, why should critics who have dismissed it and done all that for years get a screener before the fans that made this happen?
That's right.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, a lot of them already have their reviews ready to go, and the movie's 100%. Not even out. Like, I haven't even seen the movie, and they've already got their reviews ready.
It's funny.
Like,
they just clicking publish on a review that's written years ago.
Oh, exactly. And I know that, like, a lot of them are going, oh, well, the fans are just supporting this movie that's not even out yet. You're like, you're publicly shaming a movie you haven't seen yet. It's
exactly
yin yang, you know, like, and I think that that's a lot of it. You know, for every person who loves Snyder, there's somebody who goes, he doesn't deserve that love, so I'm going to throw hate.
I just don't comprehend it, man. Like, personally, I'm not a very big Marvel fan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've got a lot of mates that are, and I totally respect that. Like, I will watch them, and you know, I'll enjoy them for what they are. But for me, that, you know, nothing on Zach's movies. But personally, I would never go out of my way to, you know, comment on articles and posts and trash a movie just because I don't like it. There's people there that like that, and that movie means something to them. Why would I try and sabotage something that I'm not interested in? Like, I don't get it.
Exactly.
It makes sense to me at all.
And I feel like the main criticism, I don't know, I'm speaking, not if I'm speaking for anyone else or anything, but the main criticism that I've copped is, oh, you're not a real comic fan if you like this movie, or if you support, you know. And I'm like, well, all right, well, someone better tell my comic book shop then, because I've been giving them too much money for too long of a time.
Not only that, but, you know,
there's a lot of ignorance.
They're the people that say stuff like, oh, no, I didn't like Batman vs. Superman. Zack Snyder just tried to make Batman the Punisher. And you go, you've never read a Batman or a Punisher comic.
Exactly. And they're ready to dish all that out.
If that's what you think. It's just, it's a lot of buzzwords and bullcrap that people have heard and then just repeat. It goes, anytime there's some sort of negative connotation, people love to run with this sort of stuff, and they stick with buzzwords. And, you know, you'll see toxic fandom being the perfect example.
Yeah,
I reckon half the people that say, "Oh, so toxic, so toxic," yeah, exactly. They don't.
It's like it's people getting together to enjoy something they like, and all this rallying. They call it toxicity. Come on, man! Like, what other fandoms raised all this money for charity? What other fandoms fought and made this happen? Like, this is people purely getting together for something they love.
Yeah.
Nah, dude, we're celebrating the artistry. Like, all the talented people that are working on this project. The fact that they put off the CGI on this in under a year, and it looks like a fucking...
It looks the way it does.
Like a visual... Like, it's, you know, I don't have the words to describe it, you know?
Just on that CGI, there's one thing I wanted to point out, and we'll, you know, now that I've spent so long messing up with the audio, I'll have to shorten how long we actually do today, but a couple of things I want to point out. First, don't let me leave before asking you, Tony, about those images in the background there? I wanna know a little bit about.
Freaking sick.
Yeah, I was looking at those. They look amazing.
But what I wanted to quickly point out while we're talking CGI is there is one shot that I noticed in that trailer that I didn't think the CGI was up to scratch. Did you guys catch it, or?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's that one of Cyborg.
Yeah. I read that
the
in
work
the group
in progress.
chat, and I was a bit like, oh, okay. I didn't even think to piece that together till I
was like, okay, yeah, and I thought work in progress if it's still not quite there. But then somebody pointed out that his face doesn't move for the entire shot. His face doesn't move, and then pointed out that in that final scene over Batman's shoulder, you see him, but he's out of focus.
He was in the distance, yeah.
And he's in a completely different outfit. So they reckon that might have been just a shoddy edit over the top to cover up what he actually looks like and what his nightmare design actually is. Because that looked like straight off Justice League. With a couple of little extra things. But that to me looks straight off Justice League, and it feels like it was a bit of a red herring that they're putting in there just to put that in the trailer, and the design will look different.
We've seen this before. We've seen this before. Marvel do it all the time with Hulk running through the crowd with
Spider-Man,
all the stones in the gauntlet, exactly. So like in terms of where the Fandom trailer was CGI wise to where it is now with Uxas, that shot, and there's a couple other shots.
Yeah.
For example, you know when the Steppenwolf final battle, when Wonder Woman drops in and Justice League didn't have anyone behind her, then like this version has Cyborg and Aquaman. Even that was a little bit dodgy in terms of getting Cyborg's face to kind of fully render within that kind of with the metal. With it's not always symmetrical where the eye lines meet up and everything. Like I've got faith that Zach tinkers on things till the last minute. So 100%. I'm sure
Zach's a perfectionist. He'll sort it.
But I also
either the nightmare outfit we're gonna get, or
I think like a lot of that sort of stuff too, when it's like very slight, it's anyone who like was to screenshot that and say this movie's bad because of this is just nitpicky. And there's so much of that, and it's always going to be the same. But you got to look where those people are.
3 years later, you could. Yeah, you can literally pull up the whole movie of Justice League of how bad the CGI is, and you look at the trailer of 4 hours of footage, and you
took the first 10 seconds.
One work in progress shot. We haven't even seen the final thing, so like I got no worries in that regard.
Exactly.
Yeah, same here.
So I guess on that, let's talk about the trailer. And if we've got a few people in here watching. If you saw the trailer, what was your favorite? Drop a comment, let us know, and we'll chat. But what did you guys think? What was the standout moment for you?
Marcus, you go first, mate.
You go, Marcus. Go for it.
Well, it has to be those last 10 seconds or whatever it was, where we hear that chilling voice, and then we hear him say Batman, and it's like they're finally meeting, and it's just that epic moment.
Absolutely.
I think everyone's wanted that ever since Jared Leto was announced as Joker. We're like, okay, when are him and Ben Affleck going to finally confront each other?
The interaction, for sure. And just hearing that. I mean, the design was cool, but hearing him say Batman the way he did, that just mind blown. Like even right
now, the way
now,
he says like, Batman.
Just.
Well, all of you guys across the whole "we live in a society" meme before. Like, did you guys like?
I
caught
it
before he said it.
I'd caught it, but not to the point where I'd seen it, but not to the point where I'd caught it as a reference. And for me, I was laughing because I'm a huge Seinfeld fan, and I was just thinking of George Costanza going, we're living in a society, and I was like, oh, I guess Joker's a Seinfeld fan, but apparently it was a meme. So and then I saw a couple of people posting the reference, and I was like, oh, actually, I have seen that, but just not enough.
Ronnie, what about you?
That was the chef's kiss to that trailer.
Definitely.
It's phenomenal. And his voice, like he's got that Joker voice down pat.
Oh
And the new look is, I mean, I love the old, the David Ayer look. I know a lot of people didn't, but
I was the same. Loved it.
I loved it. And this one, it's phenomenal as well. So
it's
the voice
fresh.
had a little bit of a
different,
growl this time around, don't you think? Like
yeah,
it
sounds
sounded
like
a
he's
little
been
bit
through
more
some stuff.
menacing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it probably again will work in context. He feels beaten down now. He feels like, and I think that's sort of the point. It's like Joker is working with Batman. At what point does he stop laughing? And
yeah,
and I think at what point is it like no longer funny to him to be causing chaos because somebody else is doing it? And I think that that was reflected in the voice.
What do you think?
But even Jared himself, like I reckon Jared was beaten down by what happened with David Ayer's Suicide Squad.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, he would have been.
I think that'll come, to be honest,
it's a big surprise to me that Ben's decided to come back and that Jared's decided to come back. And not only that, but Jared has praised Zack every chance that he's got in the past
definitely
couple of months. Now, Tony, you were just asking a question.
Oh yeah, so what do you think it is that takes the smile off of Joker's face? Because, the last interpretation we saw of him, he's a little bit of this iteration at least in Suicide Squad, and Ayer has this kind of influence throughout a lot of his films through that gangster kind of, mob mentality, So 5 years later, Nightmare World, Joker's obviously been through some shit. He's still wearing that SWAT kind of uniform that he was wearing at the end of Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I found that interesting.
Harley Quinn. So what do you think it is that takes a smile off his face? Do you think it's purely, like you said, Clue, because he's not in charge, because he's not running shit, because that whole army isn't working for him, or like there's just no fun in what he's doing, or like yeah,
might be because there's nothing for him to run.
Yeah, he's no longer
just like helplessness.
He's not the agent of chaos anymore, because what can he do that hasn't already been done? In saying that, my understanding is that there is a line referencing Harley that he sort of explains what happened to her. So I guess
I've heard that too.
I guess sort of part of me, and this is like I was spitballing earlier in the group chat, and I'm a sucker for canon, so I'm always trying to work out how to put the pieces together and sort of go. But if they do this, then everything can be canon and it all works and it's all legit. So for me, I was going, okay, well, if they do the Suicide Squad, right? The Suicide Squad film's coming out, and Harley was to die in that, because we know that James Gunn has been given free rein to kill off anyone, and that was part of his contract. Now, I don't think he will kill Harley, but if he was to kill Harley, at that point, then for me, the Suicide Squad could be taking place in the Nightmare timeline where Harley's died, and though you don't necessarily see anything, it's happening in that timeline. So then when Harley dies, that's what triggers the Joker to go crazy in the rest of the world. Now, that you got to look at where Birds of Prey landed and all of that sort of thing too, and how that fits in, which I don't think fits as well into the universe, particularly after they skipped over a whole section to do Birds of Prey. But it could be that. That's a way in my head for them to tie it in to where Joker got to the point that he is, while still using the other films.
It would be nice, but like again, Snyder's said this a million times. There is no cohesiveness within this universe. His thing stands alone
100%.
in its own little corner of the universe. And
that's right. That's right.
And you know what? To be honest, also Harley just makes too much money for DC. Like obviously, Birds of Prey wasn't that much of a success, but again, tinkering. But they just know, like, if fans come around to liking this version of Joker in this little scene that we get, imagine a Joker and Harley movie that we were promised all those years ago done right, without an actual character deep dive, like Todd Phillips did with Joaquin. Like, like you already know what you're gonna get. Like it's another, even in this age of no more billion-dollar movies and cinemas and whatnot, like that thing's a cash cow if they get it right. So I don't see Harley dying necessarily. I do see Gunn playing a fine line with with that, like teasing it and whatnot. But it's just way too brave for them to try, I think.
Yeah. So I guess they've discussed, and I don't know if you guys have caught that Grace Randolph has said that she believes the way forward is going to be via Jared Leto because he wants to do more and Zack wants to work with him and vice versa. Now, whether I believe that, I don't know, but I consider the fact that Ben has a lot on, and it sounds like a way to me for them to continue the Batman story. And I was explaining in one of the other videos what I would love to see is a death in the family story with Joker and Dick Grayson at the heart of it, where maybe Ben, if he can't commit to a full film, is in 25%. But what are you guys' thoughts on that? What do you want to see if they were to continue with a Joker story?
I mean, they could go the cameo way like what they did in Suicide Squad and do like a Mad Love story where we're focusing on Joker and Harley's past and how they first kind of came together. I think that'd be a nice little nod to Harley's origin as well, while also giving Ben Affleck some like minor screen time.
Yeah.
To kind of ease him
Honestly,
back into
that part of the Suicide Squad with that little interrogation room between Harley and Joker, that was one of the strongest parts of the film, especially that dive into the acid and everything.
Absolutely.
Like, I think Harley is at her best and Margot's at her best when she can utilize the whole psychologist side, the whole, Harley was a doctor before she was, Mrs. Quinzel. So, yeah, I don't know. There's so much for them to be able to jump around, and we've seen it already with what Zack's been doing in terms of jumping. It's not a linear timeline. It's always jumping between, a little bit like how Nolan does, plays with time. So, I mean, you've got 20 years of lore between these two, history between these two characters. I mean, you'd be silly not to at least show a little bit. And again, you think of toys, you think of marketing. How many incarnations, how many costumes, how many toys could you get? How many batsuits could you get? How many? You get the Jester Harley, you get the gangster, you get the Frank Miller white suit Joker. Like, there's so much for them to be able to tackle. And Death in the Family is one storyline that would be interesting.
And to have that twist on it too, where it's not Jason Todd, it's Dick Grayson, like that.
Yeah,
I think that's a really smart twist.
And as much as
you think of
years ago, you'd think when he was talking about it, I was like, oh no, it has to be Jason. I'll be disappointed if it's Dick. And we saw that leak of the Wayne Manor, the graveyard and the gravestone that said Grayson on it, years and years, prior to Batman vs Superman even coming out. But I think that was always something that was interesting. But when I did hear Zack speak on it recently, saying, I feel like that would have been what tips Batman over the line. The death of Dick would have hit him harder than anyone else. And I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah,
Suddenly it made me enjoy that concept so much better. And I think that's a lot of what it is. It's all well and good to theorize about it, but once we see it explained the way Zack's seeing it, it makes so much more sense.
Yeah,
for sure. They do
100%.
homages so much comic history within his work. Like, there are comic influences from Kirby, from Miller, from.
He's so well written. Like, he knows the characters and the comics so well.
But if you ask his attention he's only read Dark Knight Returns.
The haters reckon that Batman doesn't use guns as well. So, that's interesting. I personally,
that story's a classic for a reason.
Yeah, that's right. The just with that question there, Clue, I'm of the opinion that I reckon, based on what Batfleck has said, that if HBO Max gave him full creative control, he's already expressed, how much he loves Zack. Zack loves him. Leto loves Zack. Joe Manganiello loves Zack. I reckon if we got all our ducks in a row, and if Justice League was off the charts, then I reckon Ben would definitely be down to doing Batfleck series or mini series on HBO Max. I know that Joe Manganiello was talking a lot late last year about the script that Ben had for that Deathstroke v Batman movie that they had planned, and he went into real detail with that to the point where people were cast. Even John Cleese was cast as Winter Green, and he was preparing his role.
I don't know how I missed that.
I'll have to send you guys. Wow. Yeah, there's a bit of a feed on Twitter where someone that's followed it really closely has sort of listed all the things that were ready to go. And there's even talk that Winter Green, that John Cleese might even cameo in Justice League, that he might have been the one driving Slade to Lex's yacht, because he's Slade Wilson's Alfred, if you will.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And he's put up a few things. He's put up a few things on Twitter and Instagram with the comics. And even recently, when the Snyder Cut was released, John Cleese put himself in place of one of the seven.
I did see that, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. And even Ben, I don't know if you guys noticed, I shared it in the chat the other day. At DC Fandom, when they had that big panel on Zack Snyder's Justice League, and Ben was there, and a few others were there. Ben in the background had 2 copies of The Killing Joke.
Yeah,
and he was grinning and he was winking, and I reckon Zach's very, very he's very intent. He's got an intention behind everything that he puts in his background whenever he's on an interview.
Yeah, and
I think Ben might have taken a little bit of a leaf out of his book, because that was there for everyone to see. So
he knows we're looking. Yeah,
I mean that Wonder Woman photograph had been there all along. He was just
that's exactly right,
and hinting at it, So.
And I don't know if you guys saw, but Jason Keeler, late last year as well, changed his background image on his Twitter to Gotham City. It was supposed to be Gotham City, and I think it was, and it had Batfleck's Fat Bat logo.
Oh, yeah, I do remember seeing that. Yes.
And a lot of people were thinking that was him teasing that was the Batman that he wanted to go with in future. So I reckon there's a lot of hints that, if all goes well, super well with Justice League, that could be where things are heading, hopefully. But we've got to do our best to make it trend and to hype it up and to make it successful. So
I think,
absolutely.
You know what, as I hope so, and for as good as it could go, if it doesn't cause a shift in the staff room, if it doesn't cause a shift in power to who's calling some shots, it really just depends on is Ben in a good enough place to be able to do it, and are they going to give him the creative and are they going to give him the freedom like they had initially planned? Don't pair him with Jeff Johns again,
he's not.
We'll talk about
that's never happening.
Hopefully, Jeff Johns.
I understand. He won't be in charge of anything cinematic ever again. I'm pretty sure of that. But we had cues of the Raid Redemption and all these influences, and then you just know that would have gotten so dulled down. We went from the warehouse fight to what would have been, the most physical Batman movie we've ever seen. Balls to the wall gadgets, fights, physicality. You got 2 of the biggest beefcakes in Hollywood going at it. Sort of. It really depends on if he can do his thing, if his body holds up. He's looking good. How good did he look? How good did he look in that cowl 4 years later?
He's awesome.
I think one thing that would be interesting is if he was to do a miniseries. Obviously, he was signed on to direct previously, but the hard thing with that is that being a showrunner on a TV series is a different step up again from just directing a film. And I noticed that Terrence Winter, who previously did Boardwalk Empire, The Wolf of Wall Street, he wasn't a director, but he wrote the screenplay. And then he did Boardwalk Empire and The Sopranos. He was supposed to do this Gotham PD show that's pairing up with the Batman, the Matt Reeves Batman. And he recently stepped away, but I feel like him as a showrunner would be someone to pair up with Ben.
I did see that, yeah, and it was creative differences again. Like you don't know what would have happened.
You never know.
But
creative,
but there's certainly a lot of support. There's certainly a lot of very strong. Yeah, there's certainly a very strong support for Batfleck as Batman. Even like Matt Reeves spoke so highly of him at DC Fandom, and the amount of times Batfleck has trended on Twitter in the last 6 months has been massive. And even the fact that like IMDb did a bit of a competition on who was the best Batman of all time, and the Snyder fans got behind that and got Ben over the line.
Absolutely.
There was no question who was going to win that, I think.
No question at all.
Right. Now, boys, we've got 6 minutes left on this timer. So I've got a little Zoom timer going here. Next time I'm going to pay for an account. But before we go, I do want to ask Tony about these drawings in the background. So I didn't want to leave without doing that. Tony, tell us about what's going on.
Yes, so out of these, I started the Superman that you see just there, maybe. So I'll do a very condensed story here. Right? So I just had my 4th heart surgery, my 2nd open heart surgery about 14 months ago, right? Obviously, one of the hardest things I've gone through. And, you know, I've always been a huge fan of superheroes and Superman and all this lore. Like, I've kept up with Snyder's work my whole life. Since 100 in ancient history, my history teacher used to go off about, how historically inaccurate he is. Little did she know it was a Frank Miller movie, comic. So, like, I've always been so deeply embedded within this world that going through that kind of stuff, I really needed something to channel all that kind of recovery energy into. And, you know, the Snyder Cut got announced like on my birthday last year while I was recovering and everything. I'll see if I can take this off. And so I was trying to find references, and I pulled up, you know, that shot of Superman in Mexico looking up, Day of the Dead he's playing. And so I got that, photoshopped it a little bit, created a reference, and this is where I ended up.
Oh, that is phenomenal.
Beautiful.
That is absolutely phenomenal.
Very nice.
Yeah, so this one is maybe, I don't know, it's like at that 95% mark. I'm just trying to get that kind of, that hope symbol. Where is it? Yeah, I'm trying to get that hope symbol finish. It's just a real pain to kind of finalize. It's got like that kind of blue glow, that little bit of rim lighting and everything. And, you know, I take cues of how like Snyder lights things, for example, how, you know, he said it's very scientific in the way that he does it, but in a way it's very personable, and it kind of, he gets this kind of there's not always a feel light on your subject. There's not always like that, you know, front key light, TV lighting that we saw in Justice League. It's like something really heroic and flattering for these kind of figures. They're gods, you know. So then I started this Batman maybe 5 months ago.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, he's about at that 60% mark now. So I want to get these done for the release. And I want to be able to send it to, you know, to all the people in the fandom that, you know, have kept me going, that have kept me inspired through this time. Because, you know, it's there's a lot of people that need this, you know, that
100%.
it means so much to people, you know, and it's like my little thank you for, you know, these interpretations of the characters that kept me inspired and kept me going creatively and artistically through this time. So yeah, I gotta finish these guys up and start making some prints and start shipping them off.
Yeah, please, because
the whole crew, to the whole fam.
I 100% want them up on the wall. Maybe not behind me because it's covered, but
you gotta find some room.
Yeah, in front of me for sure. They look absolutely phenomenal, man, and yeah, 100% put me down for one. Yeah, they're just gorgeous.
Definitely.
And as somebody who struggles with the stick figure drawing, I can't admire that enough.
Same here. Mate, Zach needs to see those. Zach would love those.
One thing.
Oh, mate, let's go trending if it could get to that.
100%. That's
I'm
next
on it.
up.
I'm on it.
One thing that I do want to mention, guys, is that obviously we're doing these streams, and we'll start doing this a fair bit more regularly. One thing that I would like to do is to discuss with you guys at some point. Obviously, we've donated a lot to AFSP over the years, but that's American, and I really want to do something for Australia. As someone who has had sort of suicide around that has affected me, I would like to find some way to do what we've done for AFSP based in Australia. So that's something I definitely like to chat about with you guys. Yeah. We've got less than a minute now on the countdown here, so I just want to quickly say thank you all for jumping on, and we'll definitely do this again. And next time I'm going to pay for the upgrade so we can be involved more.
We'll be back. We're going to do a whole trailer. There's a lot to talk about.
Absolutely.
There's so much
Absolutely. We'll try and do one either later in the week or next week. And as always, if you guys want to jump on, shout out if you're free. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in to the Kent Farm podcast, and we will be back very soon.
Brilliant.
Cheers.
See you guys.
Bye.
Good work. Cheers.